everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Property Pros Podcast. I'm Mark Goldwich.
I'm Peter Laframboy.
We are public insurance adjusters in Jacksonville, Florida, but interested in all things property. And to that end, we have another really great guest for you today. Claudio Vilas is passionate about business, small business. He's a business broker with Sunbelt Business Brokers of South Florida. Claudia, tell folks about yourself, what you do, and why you're so passionate about your business.
Well, thanks, Mark. Thanks, Peter. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being with you. I've seen your podcast before. I think you're doing a fantastic job with that, and I'm glad to be part of at least one of your episodes. I appreciate it very, very much. What can I say? I think, we were talking off camera, the businesses, the small businesses is the lifeblood of any economy, and especially the American economy. 80% of our economy is driven by small businesses. And I'm just passionate about that. I think the business owner needs a lot of support and help and recognition that, we don't always get. I'm also a business owner myself. So, we don't always get that. And I think, just a little bit of a push, a little bit of help can go a long way when you help a small business owner. So I love it. I'm just passionate about it.
I think that's great. I mean, why don't you give us a little background? How did you go from phases in your career to where you are now? What's your work life experience and stuff?
Okay, well, we can go back to when I was 18 years old. I started my own business, and it was an English teaching academy in Buenos Aires. I'm from Argentina. And I would teach executives from different companies how to make presentations, marketing presentations, and so forth in English. That's how I paid for my college. I finished that, and I sold the company to join the corporate America. Although it wasn't America because it was in Argentina, but it was an American company. It was Johnson & Johnson. And from then I, just moved up the ranks and ended up about 7 years ago, retiring from J&J here in the United States and doing what my passion really was, which was actually going back to small business. I bought small businesses. I am an owner of small businesses here in South Florida. And then I met a business broker as I was looking for businesses. And I thought, this is exactly what I want to do when I grow up. So fortunately, it's a few years away.
Yeah, it didn't take you that long to grow up, did it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you've done a lot along the way. I mean, you skipped through a lot of really a long history of different occupations and businesses, and you made it sound like it was really quick.
Oh yeah, well, life goes by really fast. So sometimes you gotta enjoy the moment because you really, you wake up one day and 20 years have gone by. But I did a lot. You're right. I've been in marketing, I've been in sales, I've been in supply chain, finances, you name it, I've done it. And in a large corporation and, as a small business owner as well. I started businesses, I sold businesses. And now what I do is really help small business owners either to get into business, buying a business, or get out and retire or move on to somewhere else by selling their business. And it's a really interesting experience because it's much more about the psychology of the buyer and the seller than you would think, right? You would think that selling a business has to do a lot with the finances and management and marketing, and it does, but the human aspect of it, the personal aspect of it sometimes goes unnoticed. And the struggles of a seller that has owned a business for 20 years and now he's retiring, and it's his baby, and it's understandable that he's very much attached to his business. So to let go is really difficult. And on the other side, you have the struggles of the buyer who doesn't know what exactly he is buying, what's under the hood in that car that he's getting, and is he going to do well or not? Is he, going to make money, or is he going to lose his, family annual, savings? So it's a really interesting process. Very, very interesting.
What do you think's your favorite part of it?
The closing table. When you're done and you have a happy seller and a happy buyer. It's funny, but it's true. It takes months. It takes really a long time to close a sale of a business. It's not like when you sell a house at all. It's it's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of negotiation. It's a lot of buyers and sellers trying to kill each other, and I have to be in the middle so that doesn't happen. And sometimes it's many backs and forth not to get to the closing table. So it's sometimes a frustrating experience. And as a business broker, like I said, you do a lot in the psychological part, if you will, right?
So you've bought and sold businesses before becoming a business broker, right? Right. So you kind of knew the process on both ends, which I imagine you said, well, that's why I can be a good fit in this. I've already done this myself. What surprised you the most after getting into it, where now it's your job to broker that agreement?
Well, yeah, what surprised me the most, again, is the fact that I didn't think it was such a personal profession, if you will, right? It's such a people-oriented profession. It's more than a real estate because, selling a house, because the attachment, the emotional attachment there is very real sometimes. And I wasn't expecting that. So that was my first learning is how to be patient, how to understand that a buyer that looks at 5, 6, 7 different businesses before buying one is doing so because it's actually his money, his probably the life savings that he's betting on that, and it does take a long time to do that, right? The other thing that surprised me a lot, and that's one of the things that I'm really focusing in on, is the lack of understanding that most business owners have about the whole process, and the lack of preparation that businesses have. So, I get a lot of calls from business owners that they want to sell the business because something bad happened in their life and they have to sell the business. So you have to sell your business for, unfortunately, you have a new illness, you're sick, or you got a divorce, or something, or you're moving. Sometimes it's not something bad, but you're moving to a different state and you have to sell your business. And 90% of the time, they're not prepared for that. And that's it's not a good situation because you can't get the whole value that you could get from it if you were prepared for it, right?
Absolutely. Are there types of businesses that you specialize in, or just any business?
No, I do any business. I've done anything from construction, adjusters, property management. I've done hair salons. I've done a little bit of everything. And I enjoy doing that. Like I said, when I first started my life in business, I started as a English teacher. And the thing that I love about that is that I was actually teaching English to executives from different companies. So I had the opportunity to talk about all these different businesses. I was with, American Express talking about cards. I was with Gillette talking about, shaving. And then I was with Johnson & Johnson talking about, medical devices. And the fact that in one day you can talk with different people about completely different subjects, to me is really exciting. Now, when you do that, you also realize that there's core issues that happen in every business. So, and I love to connect dots, right? So I'm talking with somebody about this business and I'm trying to think, okay, well, how does this connect to my experience with other businesses? And how can I help this person by giving him somehow an experience from somebody else that has nothing to do with his business, but there's something in common there. And that to me, it's a lot of fun. That's why I like doing this.
We could really go down a rabbit hole with this. I think this is an interesting subject. So when people call you, they say, hey, I want a business, but I don't know what to get. Are you helping marry them the way a real estate agent would marry them with a house and a neighborhood and things like that, and say, I think you'd be good in the restaurants, or I think you'd be good in this or that? Are you?
Yes, that's a really good point. I do that. I have a conversation with a buyer, and I try to understand what he likes best. For example, if you're a people person, is one type of businesses that you're going to be looking for, that it's more towards, selling or being out there or networking and so forth. If you're more of an introvert and you like the analytics parts, there's other businesses that you should look into, right? And it's really, what's your background, right? You come from finance. Well, if you come from finance, you might not be very comfortable doing sales. So I do that a lot, and we have a lot of conversations. I take a lot of time with my buyers to try to understand, what would be a best fit for them. Because there's one question that everybody asks. It says, what's the best business, right? And the best business doesn't exist, because it really depends on you, and it's the best business for you in your situation, with your background, with your expertise, with your passion. Because the other thing is, when you buy a business, you're actually getting married to that business. It's even worse than getting married, because you can get divorced if you get married. In the business, you got to sell it to somebody else, and it's not that easy to sell. And especially if you're not passionate about the business that you're running, if you don't like what you're doing, you're probably going to run it into the ground, and then you're going to lose the money that you invested. And it's nobody's fault but yours. So you got to be very, very careful on the decision of what business you're going to buy. And I do my best to help buyers do that. And it's not easy. It's not easy.
That's interesting. I guess I didn't really think about how many people might be calling you and say, I want to buy a business, but I don't know what kind of business I want to buy. I would think they would already know. I saw this business was for sale. I want to buy that business, or they know exactly what business, but no.
No. And I think it takes a lot of introspection before you even go out and start looking for businesses. And in my website, I just designed a new website that I launched about a week or two ago, and that's what I'm doing in the website, trying to ask my buyers and my sellers questions rather than just showing you. You got this menu of businesses. It's like, okay, well, think about first of all, what do you like? What do you want to do? What excites you? What moves you? What gets you out of the bed? And then start saying, okay, well, what kind of business will I be able to buy that will help me get out of the bed? If there's businesses that are very profitable, but they're terrible to run if you don't like them, and it's not going to be profitable for you, right? So it's really interesting. And the other side is also very interesting, the sellers, and they don't know what they're going to do when they sell the business. So how do you prepare for that?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, before we got on, we were talking about some topics that we had, and one of them was, getting ready to sell, or the things you talk about. If you own a business and you say that at some point I will eventually want to sell it, what should they do now?
That's a great point. I think you should be ready to sell the business the day you buy it. There's a book that I love that really, I follow very much, and it's an old one. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in that book, Stephen Covey says, start with the end in mind. So you buy the business thinking of when you're going to sell it and how you're going to sell it. And it's not only because something bad can happen and you have to sell it tomorrow. It's just plain smart management. What's your main job as an entrepreneur? Basically, is to create value. And what does create value mean? Means that the value of your business is going to grow. If you grow the value of your business, you're getting your business ready to sell. And everybody has a price, right? So you need to be sure that if somebody comes and says, hey, I want to buy your business, you know how much you want for that business. So having the business ready for sale at any point means that you have your business running on all cylinders, that everything's working well, that you have managed to have the business working rather than you. Because one of the most important things when you sell a business, one of the value drivers, there's things that we call value drivers. So the issues that make the business more valuable. One of the biggest value drivers is that the business can manage itself, that you as an owner are completely out of the business. Now, as entrepreneurs, we all have our ego, right? And we think, oh, I want to be the do all, end all of the business. Well, it's good for our ego, but it's not good for our business. If you're able to get the business running by itself, you're going to be able to sell it for a lot more money than if you are the driver of that business. Because the buyer, again, you got to look at it from both sides. The buyer's going to say, well, so what's going to happen? This guy knows everybody. He's friends with all the clients. He's perfect. Well, but it's him. If he leaves the business, how am I going to step into his shoes, right? So running a business as if you were going to sell it tomorrow really brings a lot of advantages and value.
Yeah, you touched on a couple of things that, as you're talking, I'm going, yeah, that's me. That was me. That will be me. When I first started the business, it really was just me. And so, no, I didn't start the business with a thought process of selling the business, right? It really was several years later, I got a business coach, and his definition of a business was a profitable enterprise that works without me, right? Just what you said. And if that business isn't running without you, then it's your job. And it's not really a business that you can sell to anybody else because you can't leave. You're the whole business. So I'm sure there are a lot of people thinking similarly, or I went from that phase to even when I thought about the business being profitable without me, I didn't want to leave the business. I had no interest in selling. And of course, I wasn't thinking about, getting hit by a bus. That wasn't top of my list of things to do that day. So never really imagined, it would happen to me. But you make a great point that it is something that you're doing something wrong if you're not thinking about it in those terms of always being ready to sell the business. How do you deal with folks who, now they have to sell the business and they never really thought of it before? You must have a lot that you have to prepare them for.
Yeah, great point. Great point. Listen, there's a saying that says that making money is easy. You buy low and you sell high. So you buy low stock and you sell it high. Yeah, that's great because it makes sense, but nobody follows it because, again, your psychology comes into mind. Most people, when they call me and they say, I want to sell the business, are not ready to sell that business. And not only about the owner being part of too much of a part of the business, but there's many other things that the business doesn't have that if they had planned a year before, they would, you would capitalize on that. So what I do with my sellers, we have a really heart-to-heart conversation. If the business is ready to sell, of course, we put it in the market. I do the valuation. We can talk about valuation in a minute. But if it's not ready to sell and he or she have time, I don't know, maybe 6 months, 9 months, I'd rather work with them and make sure that we put it ready for sale. And that doesn't mean masking anything. It means saying, okay, well, you get yourself out of the business. Make sure you hire somebody that can take care of it. You take care of your people, right? Make sure that if a buyer comes, and of course, it depends on the size of the business, right? You can do some things or not. But if you have a medium-sized business and you want to sell it, make sure you have a succession plan in place. So who's going to replace you? Who is going to be doing your activities? Also, make sure you have written procedures and processes because the buyer is going to want to buy a business that it's running. So if I have the opportunity to work with my buyer 6 months, 9 months, a year before they sell the business, I really do that. And I don't do it myself. I have other people I work with that, they help you put it up in the best shape possible. Now, if you don't have for some reason you have to sell it, well, we'll do what we can, but you know that you're not going to get, full price for it or exactly what you were asking for.
Oh, really interesting. We talked a little bit about the valuation if you had other people running it versus you. Do you want to expand on that a little bit for our audience?
On valuation, yes. There's several different methods to value businesses. I'm not going to get into the technicalities of it, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to you're selling a product. Your business is another product that's in the market and it's competing to other products, okay? So if you're selling a property management business and there's 5 other property managements in the market, well, that means you're competing there. So your valuation can't be too far from the other 4 or 5. Just like what you do with a house where you have comps, in business brokerage, you also have comps as well. And it's the other businesses. It's a little bit more complicated because in the real estate market, you know that you have, 2 bathrooms, 3 bedrooms or whatever, dining room. In business, the information that's relevant for the business is a little bit more difficult because typically these are private businesses, so it's not publicly available. But you know how much the business makes, which is in our world it's called SDE, which is the seller's discretionary earnings. How much the business owner takes home, and you know how much their price. So let's suppose, I'll give you a big number, a business that makes, I don't know, $100,000, it's in the market for $300,000. That's a 3 multiple. 300 over 100, that's 3, okay? So if you have another business that's similar to this one and you wanted to put it at 10 times multiple, you're not gonna sell it, right? So the multipliers are what drives the valuation in small business. Again, there's many other technical things that you can discuss, but at the end of the day, when you put the business on the market, you're going to be competing to other ones, and you got to make sure that you're somewhere there. Now, from that average, you could go higher if you have the value drivers that I spoke about before better. So 2 businesses that they make the same amount of money at the end of the year, but one business, for example, in the case of property management, one business only has 5 large clients that make up 90% of their income, and the other one has 20 clients where the income is spread out. The one that has more spread out income, because it's safer, it's more secure, is going to be valued better than the one that has concentration of clients. Okay. So it takes time to do a good valuation, and at the end of the day, it's going to be what the seller wants to accept from the buyer, because we give a number, which is an estimate, but the moment that this is going to be defined is when they're at the negotiation table.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, obviously, if you only had 5 clients versus 20, if each of those businesses lost 2 clients, it's a big difference in the impact on the company that only has 5 clients. So that's a good point. It makes a lot of sense. One of the things that we had here to ask you about is growth through acquisition. I've never done it myself. Can you talk a little bit about growth through acquisition?
Yeah, sure. Well, growth through acquisition it's a really interesting strategy in many businesses. And actually, in property management, is a really, really good way to grow. In property management, the clients tend to be very loyal, and it's hard to acquire new clients unless somebody's really, messing it up there. It's really hard to get to somebody because most of the time you have, years of relationship. So a good way to grow your business is actually through acquisition. So buy your competition, and that's one way. So basically that means you're growing horizontally. You have one company, you buy the second one, you buy the third one. The good thing about that is that it doesn't really matter how much money the second one is actually making, because you can get economies of scale, you can get synergies, right? So what you're looking for is you're looking for the revenue and for the new clients. If you're able to manage them with the structure that you have, of course you can make more money. So, and again, it's a good way in businesses or in markets where it's hard to get new clients. It's a lot easier to get, to buy a company and get the clients from that company. That's one way. The other way to grow through acquisition is to buy other services that you're buying from, you're integrating, like for example, I don't know, landscaping or pool maintenance, or you already have a hub, and then now you're adding, and they're called add-ons, right? So it's called a platform. You have a platform, and then you put some add-ons to it, and if you if you want to be successful in this, and you want to plan to do it, there's very interesting strategies that you can do, and it could be really, really profitable. Not only that, it's profitable and more secure, or less risky, if you will. There's nothing 100% secure, but less risky than just buying something else, or selling your company and go buy something completely different. You can use the leverage from your own company. You can use the credit from your own company to buy another company, and you can make your capital turn a lot faster. So.
Very interesting, Claudio. God, I got nothing but time for you today, bud. We can talk all day long about this stuff. I can see why you're so passionate about it.
Yeah, for sure.
To look at the business from this point of view, which is basically your business is a product that you could sell, really changes much of the perspective, right? And we're typically, if you're managing your business, you're thinking about, tomorrow's deadline, and, what happened with this or happened with that. And you have to take yourself a little bit out of that, and, go a little bit, higher, and take time to say, okay, well, what am I doing that actually adds value? Okay, so if you're thinking of what am I doing that actually adds value, you're thinking of putting your business ready to sell, even if you're not going to sell it, right? I don't want to say, of course, I'm a business broker, I sell businesses, but this is all about, you being ready to sell, because that's the greatest way you can manage your business. So when you finish your daily job and you go back home and you have a glass of wine and you're just thinking about the day, so what do you think about? Okay, are you thinking about tomorrow's deadline, or are you thinking about next year's plan, right? So what you're doing today, how is it affecting not only tomorrow, but next year, 2 years from now? What is your legacy, right? What are you gonna, when you're done, what are you leaving behind? What have you built? So if you're thinking that way, you're going to be changing some of the things that you do every day. And I personally, I love to wake up really early in the morning, and that's when I start building, for example, I was telling you, my website. Why do I do that? I could live, by selling and buying businesses all day. But by building a website, I'm putting something together that is going to grow in the future. So it's not going to give me a new sell tomorrow. It's going to give me more sales 4 or 5 years from now. And that's how you plan, right? That's how you build a legacy, and that's how you build a business. And if I can help, and I always say this, if I can help one person, build one business, the effect that has in society, it's amazing. Because you get one guy that buys a business and he makes it grow to 5 people. Now you have 5 families that are feeding off that business. He is getting all these suppliers that are, supplying him, so he builds business. And just think of that and multiply it by, 360 million people we have in America. Well, the impact that you can make by thinking that way is really, really powerful.
Yeah. What you just talked about really hits home, especially with the legacy aspects of it. I started my business 18 years ago, and I think I maybe have 10 years left at tops. And actually about 2 years ago, brought my son into the business. And so, of course, I'm thinking that that's going to be the succession plan. But then we're still going to have to talk with somebody like you about, well, is he just taking over it, or is he purchasing it? Am I going to be staying on for a couple of years to consult, or to, what? There's still a lot more to think about, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with you. Most of us want to, leave our business to our kids. I tried to do that just like you. Unfortunately, I failed. So So none of my kids want anything to do with this. Actually, I'm lying, and I'm doing this just for jokes. But my daughter worked with me for a couple of years. She really learned a lot. I think I think Mark, you're a family man just like I am, and we like to leave our kids something, right? And hopefully it's our business. And sometimes they're going to move on, unfortunately, and they're not going to want what we're giving them. But it's a good thought, and many people actually do, right? Leave their businesses to their kids. I think the important thing is to teach them how to, again, build the business. One of the things that I'm also passionate about, having been in both sides of the equation, having been in corporate America and having been in small business America, and there's a lot of support that you get when you're in a big corporation that a small business owner doesn't have. But there's also a lot of things that we have access to, but we don't know. So the other thing that I'm passionate about is, providing or helping people find tools, resources that will help you as a business owner, whether it's a property management or whatever other business. Like, for example, I work a lot with SCORE, which is a really great organization, and they provide a lot of support that we as business owners need. One of the things that surprises me when I work with business owners is when we talk about the financials, right? And we talk about the P&L, we talk about the balance sheet, we talk about the cash flow. And the first thing I notice is that not many people understand what that actually means, right? And that's a lifeblood of the business. 99% of us just remember about this up to last week, where we had to put our taxes together. And if you know the amount of information you could get from understanding the financials of your business and how that can help you make the right decisions to make your business grow, I think a lot of people would actually pay more attention to it. But, we don't pay attention to it. It's, oh, no, yeah, I got to call my accountant because I got to pay as little as I can on taxes, and that's about it. But there's a lot more to it, right? And organizations like SCORE, and there's other organizations as well, they help you and they teach you how to do that, how to manage your business beyond being an employee of your own business.
Right. That's, it's a big reason why I still have a business coach after, almost 19 years, is because I was not good with the financials, except for going to the ATM and looking and seeing what the balance was. That was my financial report to myself, right? And like a lot of business owners, well now through, because my business coach, we meet on a regular basis. We go over that every single time we meet. We go over the P&Ls to make sure that I'm understanding it more and more and more all the time, and then trying to find areas of weakness and working on those.
You don't think constantly how much money it costs a month just to keep the doors open, and how much revenue that takes?
Yeah, well, we kind of do, but I also know that we have cash on hand that'll take care of many months of that. But we look at it every
Claudio,
month.
I lose sleep over it. My wife knows how much money we have to bring in on a monthly basis just to pay the basic bills. It's drilled into everybody's head how much money we have to make to pay the very basics operating.
Well, and that's the struggle. That's the struggle that you as a business owner has, and that's the struggle that when you're an employee you don't have, and you don't realize, how hard it is to stay up at night and say, hey, am I going to be able to pay, payroll next week or not? And until you're in the shoes of a business owner, you never know what that feels like, right? And that's why I have so much respect for business owners, because it's really difficult, really difficult. But, the other thing that I think it's important to not only be ready to sell from a business point of view, but be ready to sell by knowing what your options are, okay? I had a situation just a year ago where I was selling a pretty large corporation, a company, not corporation. Um, and the owner, he'd worked in the company for many, many, many years. He built it from the ground up, and his idea was, okay, well, I'm going to sell it, and that's it, right? I get the money, and that's it. He didn't know all the different alternatives that you have when you sell a company. When you build a fairly large size company, it's over 5 to 10 million in revenues, right? When you're going up over $1 million in EBITDA. You have a lot of options that could actually be better than just selling the company, right? Be part of a board of directors, get a percentage of the earnings for the next 10 years. And of course, that has a lot of implications in taxes, right? Sometimes you sell the business and taxes just eat you alive. If you don't know how to structure that, and you can't think of that the day you're selling the business. You got to think of that way before you do that and be prepared for that, right? So it's not only about preparing the business for sale, it's preparing yourself to live the best life possible after you sold it, right? If you were able to buy a nice house, a nice, boat or something, if you like boating. And I'm saying this because I had a meeting this morning about that, right? The seller, she says, well, I just want to sell the business. I got a nice yacht I bought, and I want to be able to enjoy it. I said, well, you got to take care of the taxes because they can eat you alive. So, be prepared for all that, and know that you have alternatives and people that can help you. Well, again, as business owners, sometimes we're very, a little bit obnoxious, if you will. I am. I got to admit it. So I tend not to ask for help, but there's so many resources that we can touch and that we can get that we don't have to really pay. There's a lot of free resources out there, and some of them that are not free, but they're not that expensive, that can help us have a business that can be sold anytime, even if you don't want to. But if you sell it, also keep as much money as you can from taxes. So
gets me fired up, makes me want to go out there and start fighting with insurance companies more, I guess, right?
lots of good info. Claudio, are there any other, as we wrap this up, other items you want to let the audience know? I'm sure they've found it as informative as we did. This is a great topic.
No, I think I think that as business owners, we really need to focus on creating value, and that at the end of the day shows up in your net income, and it shows up in the value of your business, and it shows up in how many more employees you can hire, how many more clients you can take. I mean, that's the essence of what we do. Try to do the most for the lowest cost and the most effective. And I just like to help doing that if I can. Kudos to everybody that decides to go into business, because it's one of the most difficult things that you can do, right? So that's my final words, if you will.
Well, thanks again, Claudio. By the way, how should people get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is just go to my website, which is a very simple website, C as in Charlie, V as in Victor, cvbusinessbroker.com. It's a newly created website. Just a week ago I launched it. And I'm going to be building a lot of resources and a lot of videos to help people increase the value of their business, and eventually, if they want to sell it. So that's the best one. Then my email is a little difficult to spell, so it's Claudio Vilas, Claudio.vilas@sunbeltnetwork.com. Maybe you can put it somewhere if you want. And my cell phone is 954-774-4141. I'm always available. Although my wife doesn't like it very much, but you can call anytime.
Okay, well, we will get all that information posted, and I know I'm gonna check out the CV Business Broker myself. Look forward to checking out some of your videos. Really appreciate your taking the time to chat with us today. Folks, if you enjoyed this, you want to see other videos, check us out on YouTube or other social media at Property Pros Podcast. And until next time, we'll see you later. Thanks for being with us.